This is episode 82 of the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. In this episode, I get to sit down with one of the athletes that I coach, Lucy Procter, who just finished on the podium at the Elite 15 major in Melbourne. It was her first elite podium. She's really excited. And we talk about her past, how she trains, and everything going on. And we get to meet her boyfriend, significant other, Tom Moffat. Let's make hybrid fitness work for you. Before we get started today, I want to interject here and just say TheFeed provided us with a code for 40% off for any new users. It'll be valid, I believe, only till the end of this month. So if you guys get a chance, visit thefeed.com/THE. That's thefeed.com/THE. This is one of the biggest sales that they have ever done, bigger than their biggest sale of the year, which is Black Friday. That's 40% off for any new user. And if your significant other has never ordered from TheFeed and you already have, sign them up for an account and you get this code. It's fantastic. And you can listen to our past episodes and some of our future ones for some recommendations on what to order. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoy the episode. How's it going today, Lucy?
It's going good. Thank you for having me.
Great. We got Lucy and Tom on today. Lucy, if you don't know, is a Hyrox Elite 15 athlete. She's one of the youngest athletes in the field. She made her elite debut at the beginning of 2025 in the Las Vegas Major, where she ended up 5th place in qualifying for the World Championships. Since then, she's raced in all the majors from that first one and the World Championships. She's had ups and downs in some of them. Downs, though, being the lowest finish of 7th place and the highest finish getting a podium. Lucy also performed and took 5th place at the World Championships in her rookie season on the elite stage, at least. And then also, I mean, we never talked about the doubles race, but we could talk about that too. So we'll go into that. And right after World Championships, Lucy and I started talking, and I've been coaching Lucy since then. So it's been about six and a half months now that we've been coach and athlete, and just getting to know her over this time. I'd have to say, in the future, with the amazing long career that she could have coming forward, she just got her first podium in an elite race, and I think it's one of many. And one day we'll see Lucy standing on top of that podium at the World Championships. So, so this is Lucy Procter and her boyfriend, Tom Moffat, who is also a good athlete.
Yeah. We're converting him to Hyrox. He's coming.
Slowly. He's coming.
Debu's coming in Warsaw. You heard it here first.
I think, Tom, right now, and you can correct me, but your running might not be the same level, but of all the elite Hyrox men, you're probably stronger in every single lift than all of them.
Maybe Hunter.
Yeah.
Hunter's probably the only one.
Hunter, if you're listening
to lift, I know you can clean and snatch more than him.
Deadlift, probably. Squat. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe deadlift. I reckon he's got you on a deadlift.
I reckon he's got me on a deadlift.
Yeah.
Oh, and bench.
I think that's the only lift that he might have me on. So you probably
I don't know what 500
No, just gotta run fast.
That's his max, I think.
Yeah.
What is it?
500 pounds, I think.
I think he's just about,
I don't know what that is in kilos.
Just about got me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I think he did a 500-pound deadlift with a 1 mile run. I think he can deadlift almost 550 pounds, which is what is that, like 250 kilos?
Yeah, I think my best is 220.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's got me on that.
So heavy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's start with Lucy, and let's start at the middle end and then work backwards and start at the beginning and then work up to where we're at. So middle end, we'll talk about World Championships. what'd you do working up to the World Championships, all that, and walk us through how you did there because this is a coaching podcast or training
Mhm.
podcast. We want to know about you, but also kind of how you train, how you feel the training goes.
Yeah, I think if we go back to actually Nice World Champs in 2024, my approach to that, where I won the under 24 world title, was actually very similar to how I then approached Chicago the next year. I think something that's been clear to me for like quite a while, probably since Nice, is that loads of aerobic volume tends to work for me. I've got a running background, so the miles kind of are usually fairly high. Like there's a huge spread across the elite, as we know, for like some people are running 30 to 40K a week, others are like kind of near on 100. Um, and yeah, for me it's towards that upper range, like when I'm fit. So yeah, and I really enjoy it. But at the same time, I kind of realize that there's a point where there's more aerobic gain to be made, but it's just not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze running. It's not worth the injury risk or the fatigue. So yeah, Erg has been my best friend. More recently, the Stairmaster has been my best friend. Love that. And yeah, I think the more I moved away from doing like loads of really intense, long high rock sessions, I realized that I could get so much more gain from like controlled and intentional efforts. And yeah, like I would just be really, really intentional with 2 or 3 threshold running sessions a week, depending on kind of where I am in the lead up to a race. And then usually like double threshold those with an erg of some sort. And yeah, then the closer I get to competition, more like specific workouts, maybe sort of 20 to 30 minutes at the end of my hard days. And then I guess, yeah, some like lower intense, more volume type sessions. But really, like the big thing going into Chicago for me was I was out in Lanzarote for about a month and I was just cranking the like aerobic volume. Like I would be out on like a 10 mile-ish run, give or take a few miles, straight into like an hour to 90 minutes of ergs. Um, and that would be my first session. Then the second session would be like probably strength. And yeah, I did like I continued lifting quite heavy all the way up to um like the week or two before Chicago. But my approach to strength used to be quite different to how it is now, and I would have like more intense strength days where I would just hit like all lower body on one day and then all upper body another day, and it would be like 90 minutes maybe in the gym just doing these specific muscle groups. Now, obviously, with you being my coach, you know that things are a little bit different. Um, so yeah, and I found that to be quite fatiguing sometimes, even though I didn't know it at the time, just because I'd never taken any other approach. But yeah, that would generally be it. The structure of my week would be some days would be long, really aerobic efforts in the morning and strength in the afternoon, and other days would just be one really hard effort in the morning, probably running, and then another hard effort in the afternoon, probably ergs and station based. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, a couple things that we've done is kind of spread out the lifting a little bit, not the super intense little sessions, but more spread out throughout the week. But also, when she says she likes the stair stepper, she means she likes it. What'd you do the other day? I asked you about an aerobic piece. You're like, oh, I changed that and put it on the stair stepper. It was like 2 hours on the stair stepper at like 100 to 115 steps per minute or something.
Yeah, maybe a little bit less, maybe like 90 to 100 steps per minute. But yeah, like I can just do do 2 or 3 hours on there. It's quite scary to be honest.
it,
Like I think
it,
once I get past like half an hour, especially if I'm watching some YouTube or something, which you can obviously do so easily on there, like the time just slips away and I just play these stupid games to myself, being like get to the next 100th, step and or like floor.
yeah.
And then I start having these like things where I'll be going and I'm like, oh, I've already done 400 floors, so like maybe I could do 1,000. And
Wow.
I get these ideas, and sometimes I'm like, no, Lucy, that's stupid. But I did actually once cave and see how long it would take me to do 1,000 floors.
Yeah, you messaged me, yeah, 1,000 floors or something, and you're like, oh, next time I'll do even more. But we were talking, it was like, how many Burj Khalifas could you have climbed? It was like 5 or 6 times you went up the Burj Khalifa, which is just crazy, like just awesome volume. And
I think I did actually climb the elevation of Everest by doing that.
yeah,
Yeah. think we worked out it was about the elevation of Everest, around 1,000 floors.
Yeah, that's wow.
It's good
So
fun. I find an hour pretty easy to do. The second hour can get a bit tough towards the end, and then once you get past 2 hours, it does get a little bit tough.
yeah. And she doesn't just mean that, just not just easy either, guys. She has actually gone threshold workouts on the stair stepper, which just sounds rough to me.
It really
Um,
is. It really
And
is.
for reference, like I used to do the stair stepper back in wrestling in college. I would put a sweatsuit on and go do 15 to 30 minutes on that thing and just be dying hunched over on what we had. I love the stair stepper for aerobic volume, but I've never tried to do a threshold like trying to run up the stairs. Scares me a little, but
I wasn't running, to be fair. Like I'm going fast, but
yeah,
like not running. But
you're
yeah,
getting your effort to
yeah,
that level.
I had a little niggle and I couldn't run for like that reason. I was just being cautious. And so um yeah, I just thought, do you know what? I don't really fancy doing my thresholds on the bike today. Let's see if it's possible to do it on the stairs because I didn't really want to get to the stage where I'm literally running up the stairs for effort because I feel like at that point the limiting factor becomes like my legs getting tired rather than like you can't sustain a threshold effort really. But then I realized that you actually can. And I figured the best way to do it is in my warm up, I basically build up to my threshold heart rate. So it then doesn't take me like a minute or two at the start of the first rep. I just build my warm up for like 20 minutes from like zone one up to like zone four, effectively back off for like 3 minutes. But my heart rate's obviously already like there or thereabouts. I mean, at that point, I'm probably back into like zone two, zone three. But then by the time you, and also it gives me a good gauge as well for like where my threshold is going to be on that day because one, every machine's different, and two, I don't know how I'm going to feel on a specific day. I might be more tired or I might be feeling really good, and it takes me like a couple extra levels to get to threshold. So it's good to find that out and then into the first effort.
Nice. Um, yeah, so we go on. You were talking about Worlds. You were talking about Nice. Yeah, in 2024, I believe you won the under 24, but you also won overall age group, right?
No, I didn't. I think I was
Oh,
third or fourth.
okay. I thought you were
I
overall age
think
group. But so,
Second, second one.
oh, second one overall age
Yeah,
group.
yeah, yeah.
I
And then it was
remember,
Jade,
yeah,
and then it was me, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was right. I remember Jade beating
Yeah,
you.
Jade did beat me.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're on the under 24, which at the time you were 20 or 19,
20. Yeah,
20. And then last year you took fifth overall in the Elite 15. Um,
yeah.
and then after that, you went to Hamburg. So let's talk a little bit about
Hmm.
Hamburg before we get to the last major that
Ready?
happened. So Hamburg, I thought you actually had a pretty good lead in, but you did have over the summer, and you've told me you've had this before, if you want to talk about it, just some like hormonal issues going into it, and then it just kind of culminated during that race.
Yeah, it's been tough. Like, obviously, as a woman, we have a cycle, and for me, it's not always been like plain sailing and regular as such. And definitely battling with that over the last few years has been a bit tricky as I try to like bring my body to its healthiest place. It's obviously not always the easiest when you're training at such high volume sometimes, but at the same time, like for me, not having a regular cycle is not like particularly healthy, and so that's what I'm working towards. It has meant that sometimes some phases of my cycle have been really, really aggressive and impacted my training. And yeah, like you said, we had a period of like 1 or 2 weeks at kind of the middle of the summer. I think it was end of July, where it was just horrific. Like I could not do any session without feeling like I was dying. I think I went to do my thresholds and I was trying to run an effort and I'd already pulled back maybe like 10 to 15 seconds on my usual threshold pace. And I was just in zone five. It was awful. And so I think we took the decision at the time to basically just keep everything aerobic. I was in the pool quite a lot because that was one of the only things I could do that would make me feel calm whilst training. So that was a really good tool. Um, and yeah, we pulled back the intensity. And yeah, then obviously like my cycle shifted into its next phase and everything was okay. But my worry was that it was going to happen to me again in Hamburg because obviously I don't have much control or indication over when these things are going to happen until my cycle is 100% regular. And like you said, I had a great build in, and it's so frustrating because we worked so hard over the summer. I didn't really take an off season. It was like Chicago and then kind of 2 weeks, and I was like, right now we're working for Hamburg because there was literally like 2.5 months to go. And we put the work in, and then I had my peak session like 2 weeks out. And that peak session was unbelievable. Like it was, I think it was the sim through like the basically up to the rower. And I was on for like a 58 or 59, like including rock zone and everything. And I was so confident. I felt so fit. I really did. I like that session was just, I remember coming out the gym and either going to voice note you or call Tom or something. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like if I can just hold this shape and execute this taper, like Hamburg, I'm gonna get on the podium. And I really felt it. And then the week in the race, I just knew in my like gut that these hormones were changing again. And I could feel like my body being a bit more inflamed and swollen, and I could feel my kind of resting heart rate and my HRV taking a bit of a turn. And at first, it looks like maybe you're getting sick, but I just knew that like it wasn't a virus or something. It was what had happened to me a couple of months before. Um, and yeah, I have never felt so bad in a race in my whole entire life. I just felt like I mean, I know that I was literally redlining for the whole time, but I have just never felt so uncomfortable. And I've watched the race back and I can't even recognize myself. It looks like someone else is like controlling me. It's like someone else is driving the car and I'm in the boot kicking and screaming.
Yeah. And so we'll get more into that race, but I want to shift real quick. Um, because I know when there's issues or when we're feeling down and things like that, there's always a good support system. And I think it's important for all the athletes to have somebody they can lean on and support. Um, Usually when I talk to JK, it's about like Georgie. Georgie's there for him a lot. And you have Tom, and Tom's there for you. And he gets to support you through those tough times and things like that. And so, is there anything that you do, Tom, or that Lucy, that you like that he does for you that happened during that time that really anybody can learn from about like if they have a athlete spouse or significant other that they can like take and advance?
I think it helps that Tom was a very high level swimmer and obviously he competes in CrossFit as well and now soon High Rocks, and he understands like the lifestyle, the difficulties, and like essentially what happens when you are under a lot of pressure and might start to mentally struggle with that, which is nice because yeah, not everyone would understand that.
I just want to say if nobody is watching, if they're just listening, when Lucy said that he was a high level swimmer and in CrossFit and about to go into high rocks, the biggest eye roll I've seen, I could feel it, came from Tom.
I will be back in a sec. I just need to get Lucy's
He's
shot.
grabbing a charger.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think for me, like having the like knowing that he understands and that if I am upset or anxious or kind of getting myself in a twist over a race or something, knowing that he understands that and that I can feel like I'm being like listened to and seen and not just having someone that's like, what are you talking about? Like you've obviously put the work in. I don't understand why you're upset. So I think just like sometimes knowing that someone understands and that they like, you don't necessarily have to have been an athlete of any sort, but I think knowing that, yeah, someone is just there to listen to you, and go, look, I understand why you're upset. Like, not just this is ridiculous, you need to pull yourself together is nice because sometimes like it sounds silly, but sometimes I just need to like have a little cry or just be upset over something for a little bit of time and like being allowed the space to do that rather than just like being told to pull yourself together essentially is a really nice place to be. One
Yep.
thing you do get me to do is like do a lot of breathing. And it's not something that I'd ever really done before, but it's also something I've started working on with my sports psychologist recently. But literally talking me through controlled breathing so that if I'm like getting panicked over something or a session or a result or something, is really nice and grounding. So it's a nice thing to be guided through. Definitely
Yeah,
helps.
it's either Yeah, I introduced Lucy to just box breathing to begin with, so kind of in, hold, out, hold. And that was kind of the first one that she used, and that worked quite well in the lead up to Melbourne.
Yeah,
And
I actually
then
used it in my warm up. Like there was a kind of time in the warm up where I'd done everything physical that I needed to do to prepare, and I had 5 more minutes until they were going to call us at the start. So I literally went into a corner in the warm up zone, lied down on my back, shut my eyes, and just did some box breathing,
and
and it
then
really helped to like just calm me down before the race.
and then yeah, more recently I've been trying to get her to learn how to meditate by stealth, by just getting her to use meditative techniques without telling her that it's meditation.
There you go.
And that also works quite well when like I've like when I find that she's getting kind of into a bit of a spiral that's not necessarily helping too much and kind of helping her just snap out of that spiral by recognizing that the thoughts are just thoughts, they're not good or bad, and you can just kind of let them go.
Nice.
Because I spiral. You know this as well. Like I
Pull her
will.
out. Pull her out of the spiral. That's great. So, question then, do you guys ever get competitive in a workout when you do a workout together?
It's rare that we
Yeah.
work out together just um
Our
because
training's different.
our training's different and our skill sets are kind of different. Like what we'll at least up
But
until
if
quite
Tom is coming over to High Rocks, he's gonna have similar training, right? So,
Yeah, I think that like there's like we have different training on different days is the first thing, but I think also like for quite a long time we were both in our own lanes with him just doing CrossFit and me just doing high rocks. And so like his gymnastics are way better than mine, for example. And you know, of course he's like way, way, way stronger than I am, but also that you're not going to beat me in a running race. But we both know that. And I think like it's actually rare that we do the same workout together. It's more like that actually happens most commonly when one of us really doesn't want to train and the other one's like, hey, look, this is my workout today. You can do this, or like, do you want to work on the same clock and change the movements or whatever? But it would actually be more common that I'm like, oh, Anthony gave me this workout this week and I think it would be good for you. Do you want to try and stick it in your program somewhere?
yeah. Well,
yeah.
and if anybody doesn't know, sometimes Tom will send me workouts and be like, Lucy should do this.
Tom
Uh,
sends
It's
subliminal
it's
I
messages.
don't I
Like,
don't know if I've ever included one except for recently. I did the workout Kelly and Tom's like, you should have Lucy do that. And now Lucy does have to do Kelly this week.
Yeah.
it's not just that. Like I'll also send you workouts that I think you should do.
Oh
And then
yeah, that's true. Yep.
or you've like I've put one on my Instagram story and you've messaged me going, I want to try that.
There have,
Yeah.
however, been multiple times where you've sent Anthony something and I'm like, oh my God, that's awful. It's going to land up in my program. And in fairness to you, it never has. But like sometimes I have the fear because he sent like a workout where I think it was it the rower and the burpees over the rower one, where it was like
Uh,
straight, pretty much
it was a
48 minutes of rowing and
it was a
burpees.
training think tank did a burpee bleep test at the beginning
Oh yeah.
of their previous cycle where it was you do a certain number of burpees over the rower and then off. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so you had a window and you had to do 10 burpees over the rower and then row, I think 500 meters in the remaining time, and the window got smaller and smaller and smaller as you got through. Yeah, that was the so yeah, that was a
Yeah,
training
you could
thing.
take off like 10 seconds every round that you finished or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
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 I remember that. And it was like the first round was super easy. It was like 4 minutes to complete like 10 burpees in a 500-meter row. And then like
Yeah. But then it
you would
creeps
start
up.
takeoff
Yeah.
rounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we know I love a burpee, but yeah,
I think
I'm not sure about
by
that
the end
one.
the last round it was like 2 minutes and 10 seconds to do 10
10
burpees.
burpees
Five.
in a
Yeah.
Yeah.
500-meter row. Yeah. That would have been hard. Okay. So let's go back to Hamburg. You ended up running the race. You finish in seventh place, and
Yeah.
then you take an ambulance to a hospital and scare everyone.
Casual.
Yeah.
Scare everyone. Yeah, it was rough. Like I said, I felt so bad in the race. And I was just glad I finished it. No clue where I finished. Obviously, I knew I hadn't gotten the podium. I went unbroken in the wall for the first time ever, and that remains the only time I've ever gone unbroken in a race, which is crazy given it was so horrific. I just felt so out of control. And like for anyone that's raced, you know that that's just not a feeling that you want to have, especially when you've trained so hard. It's also not a normal feeling. Like, a high rocks is an hour plus effort generally, thereabouts. Like you should feel in control for most of it. And I just did not from the start. So yeah, I crossed the finish line. I remember throwing the 100th rep of the wall balls, turning to the left, which is where like the direction to the finish line was, and just seeing black, like could not see. And so I got over the line, kind of collapsed on the floor, took much longer than usual to get up. But then I thought everything was okay. I was like, God, that felt awful. Thank God that's over. It's fine, whatever. It wasn't a bad result. It was only about 30 seconds slower than my PB at the time. But I was just not happy that I hadn't been able to show the condition that I knew I was in given the session 2 weeks earlier. So yeah, anyway, then I went off to do my cool down. And I started feeling this like cramp in my right hand side, and I was like, I'm not sure, maybe I'm dehydrated or I need a snack or something. I finished my cool down, went back to the athlete lounge, laid down, and this pain just got worse and worse. And I'd had a snack, I'd had some water, and I was basically 15, 20 minutes later. I'm not even sure of the time frames. I don't actually have much recollection. I just remember thinking, I don't think I can get up from this sofa and take myself back to the hotel. Like I'm in a lot of pain here. And so I basically called Tom and called my agents, and they managed to get some medics very quickly. Before I knew it, I was like screaming in pain, attached to a drip, going in an ambulance to the hospital. For what I can only describe as like literally the worst night of my life. The amount of pain I was in was crazy. I don't think I've ever been in anywhere near that amount of pain. I literally thought I was going to die. And yeah, it was not at all pleasant or pretty, but your wife stayed with me until 3 a.m. And it was only when I literally said to her, Lauren, please go and sleep. You have a race tomorrow, that she did. And yeah, my agents, also Lauren and Mark, stayed with me like literally all night. And I stabilized in the middle of the night. And by the next morning, I was fine, which is crazy given the state I was in the night before. But yeah, it was really scary. I didn't have Tom there because he was competing
No.
elsewhere.
Bear in mind through all of this, I was in the south of Spain at a CrossFit competition, which had been planned since before High Rocks had released the locations of the majors. So yeah, it wasn't
But you were
like
in a
my
He
panic. You probably
he
weren't
was
sleeping either.
he was warming up for an
I
event whilst I was in the ambulance to hospital, fully aware that I was in an ambulance on the way to hospital with no choice but to go and do this
I
workout.
I came second in that workout. It was fine.
Yeah, just zoned out. Like, you think
Yeah.
about that's all you can think about. No, I remember, yeah, I was at home and I was texting with Lauren back and forth. And I remember it was like yeah, it must have been 3 a.m. for you guys. And it was, yeah, like 6 p.m. here. And I'm like, why are you still awake? What's going on? I'd asked too several times, like, what do you mean what happened to Lucy in the hospital? Like, because somebody says that, they're like, oh yeah, they're taking Lucy to the hospital, and they don't say why, they don't say like what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd asked, a couple different people, couldn't figure it out. And then Lauren told me she was with you. I was like, okay, you guys
And
will be
every
fine.
yeah, every I was having texts from various people, and like my mum wasn't there either. And so essentially between like Swoop with like Mark and Lauren and I, because they obviously could communicate with my mum and I guess you as well, but I couldn't even really communicate with Tom because I was just in so much pain. So from like the pockets of time when the pain like subsided very briefly because the like painkiller medication that they had me on was working for a small period of time until they gave me a bigger dose, but obviously you can't do that forever, and I ended up being quite ill because they gave me too much essentially. Um, and yeah, I remember basically having to make a decision to withhold information from my mum because she is obviously would be terrified to hear what was going on. And I knew full well that she would have jumped immediately on a plane, regardless of cost or really thinking. I mean, which one wouldn't, of course, but we essentially decided to tell her that I had gone to the hospital just for some like routine checks and everything was going to be okay. Um, and obviously, we said if I was there the next day and things hadn't improved, then we'd tell her. but luckily they did. And obviously she knows now. I said to her, "Hey, look, I'm really sorry we didn't tell you at the time, but it was in fact this bad." Um, but yeah, it
And
was really rough.
maybe she doesn't let you travel to another major alone because moving on to the next one, right? She went with you to Australia.
Yeah, she did.
That's a long flight. Um,
Yeah.
all the way down to Melbourne. So, moving on from Hamburg after that whole thing, you didn't have a doubles
Yes,
race. You
please.
guys hadn't. You guys weren't.
No.
You weren't signed up for doubles because Sinead was injured and wasn't racing solo. So, you guys
Yep.
went and did not do doubles uh, in Hamburg, but you did in Melbourne. So after Hamburg, we were talking and we're like, okay, well, let's go do a few things. Kept training. We knew you were fit. And we're like, well, let's hit up just a confidence building race. Go win something. So you went, you ran, you won Paris on what looks like it might have been the slowest course of the year.
I
Uh,
think Utrecht might have been slower, but we think it was the same sleds that they used in Utrecht as they had in Paris. So
So, and you still won by like 2 minutes, had a good confidence. That's all you needed to like get that win. And then you went over to Melbourne and Melbourne, you had your mom there now to make sure that you weren't gonna end up in the hospital again. Thank goodness. Uh,
no.
we managed a little bit better, like leading into it, being like, okay, well, if this happens again, here's how we would do it. We didn't run into that. So you went out and you executed a really fantastic race. Wound up on your first Elite 15 podium, uh, third place in Melbourne. So walk us through that race, then we'll talk about doubles.
Yeah, I think if we're going to talk about Melbourne, we have to talk about the lead up because, like,
Yeah.
as the training was pretty much smooth sailing, but the mental side was probably the most difficult mental challenge I faced ever going into a race.
And bear in mind, like this was like going into Chicago was pretty bad. Like
Oh, we had spirals.
Lu Lucy was pretty much saying she was going to quit the sport every day in the lead up to Chicago, and I think the lead up to
God.
Melbourne got worse.
Yeah, it was bad. And I started working with a new sports psychologist, so we managed to improve things so that I could essentially get to the start line because 2.5 weeks out from the race, I was not going. I was literally going to cancel my flight.
It was not even 2.5 weeks. It was like like 3 days before she was going to get on the flight. Like so, like a week out from the race, she was still like, "I'm not going."
More like 2 weeks. I flew out about 10 days in advance.
Okay, yeah,
But
but
yeah, it
like
was
I
very close to the
because
flight. I was still unsure that I was going to
yeah.
get on the flight.
Yeah, I remember you
And
telling me,
I
and I
just,
was like, I really hope she gets on. Like, at
yeah, I
least
don't
go
think I
there.
actually told you at the time how bad it was because it was freaking
It was very
bad.
bad. And then I think the because I was kind of trying to just be supportive, be like, okay, whatever happens, happens. Um, but what really helped was the gym we go to in London, Slevin. Um, there was a like an in-house competition the
It was
Friday
Friday night,
before.
and I was flying on the Tuesday, and it was
Yeah, it was, oh yeah, it was the
yeah.
Tuesday. And basically Lucy was talking to the gym owner, Nick, and her friend Lauren, who is a coach there, another Lauren. Um, and basically both of them said, "What the hell are you doing? Get on the plane. Like, why are you being like this?" And I think
Yeah,
that
it
was
was a
the
bit of tough love, and I really needed that.
real catalyst for Lucy to kind of just snap out of everything that she'd been going through and just be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna get on the plane, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Nick's a great guy and he's really, really, really wise. And he has also been through a similar pathway that I have in High Rocks with building his gym, Sleben, and kind of come up against the like kind of imposter syndrome thing and the comparison thing. And it was a lot of the things that I felt like I was feeling. And even though it's a different like context to hear from his perspective as literally one of the most successful gyms in London and the country, um, to like say those things and yeah, like really talk some sense into me. It was like it definitely helped. I think the difficulty that I was having was obviously Hamburg was really, really scary and what happened to me happened. And obviously I had this still thing in the back of my mind, despite what happened, like and going and winning Paris, that maybe if I pushed myself to the level that you do in an elite race, it could happen to me again. Even though rationally I knew that it was so unlikely, you still have that feeling and it's still scary. And I think the second thing was with Paris, obviously, yes, I won, and that was a good confidence boost, and I felt much more in control in the race. The time I ran was the slowest I've ran for quite a while. And even though, again, rationally, I knew it was probably up to the sleds, you still have that thing in your mind where it's like, wait, but what if the sleds are like that in Melbourne? What if I actually was just like not strong enough on the day and it was a me problem and not the sled problem? And so I think these things kind of came into play. And at the same time, we also had like a bunch of really fast European races. I think there was Birmingham, which had been a bit earlier, and then there was
London,
London came a bit later, but
Dublin.
Dublin was the main one, I think. And people start running really fast times and going faster than my PR, and new people start qualifying. And I felt a bit threatened. Who wouldn't? Like, the new people are entering the field. And I think my kind of thought process was this is exactly the time that I entered the field last year. I qualified on my debut for World Champs in Vegas, and I knocked someone that probably thought they had a sure like shot on one of those places out of a qualifying spot. So I was like, if I can do it, then someone can do it to me. And I basically had an entire lapse in self-confidence and belief, and really just believed that I was going to show up to Melbourne and get beaten by like everyone that was on their debut. I really, 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 really believed it. And for a period of a week plus, the only thoughts going through my head around the race were, I can't, like genuinely, I can't. Like I really, really fully believed I can't do the race. Like I can't explain how much I believed that I was not even capable of doing the race.
So I
And then
just
I
want to
believed that if I did do the race, that I was dead set going to get beaten by everyone.
I want to jump in here because I want to tell anybody listening, this wasn't shared with me. Like I would ask you questions, we would have our weekly calls, and this was not what was
I think at the time I was
portrayed.
like, Anthony, I'm going for a bit of a lapse in self-belief, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be fine.
Like the only thing I got a hint of was one time you were like, I don't know, I'm not feeling so good. I don't know if I'm gonna get on the plane. And I was just thinking, like, I think I messaged you like you should, but let me know. Like I thought something serious might be going on. I didn't know how serious it was. Uh
I just like I think at the same time I really quickly found a new sports psychologist, having not worked with one for like I quite a while actually. I stopped working with one.
Not consistently
Yeah,
working.
and exactly. Not consistently working with one for a while. And I really thought this is like you cannot go on like this. And also you're not going to get to this race without changing something in your mindset, and you don't have the capability of doing that yourself. So you need to get some help in.
yeah.
Um, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself. And I genuinely don't believe that I would have gotten that flight without talking to Antonio, who's my sports psychologist. Um, and yeah, I think through all of this, there was this tiny voice that was just like, no, it's gonna be okay. Like somehow, even if you have no idea how, you're gonna get there and it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it was me.
It was Tom. Tom was the tiny voice. But like there was this tiny part of self-belief, like a tiny spark, like literally 0.1% belief that I could just get there and it might be fine. And even though I was like trying to almost kid myself out of that and be like, that's so ridiculous, like you need to listen to these thoughts that are obviously right because you can't do it. I like allowed myself to listen to that part and be open to working with the sports psychologist and not shut these things down and not shut what Tom was saying down, and try to change my beliefs to get to the race. And I did, and literally day by day. And I had an appointment with Antonio pretty much every other day, going into the race. And we just like fired through as many strategies as we could to basically change my thought patterns. And obviously it's not a finished product, but we had to do like the most we could do in 2 weeks to get me like in a mentally solid place to run this race. And like by the time I stood on the start line, I don't think I've ever been so calm on the start line ever. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and
So
I think it was down to a good taper as well. And by that point, the irrational fears of like, what if my hormones throw a fit again? And, what if I'm actually not like in a good level of fitness, or what if I don't recover from the travel? Like all of those extra fears I had as well were also gone.
Nice.
So yeah, it came together.
It's good to approach it like that. And I'm just curious because your thoughts during the race are different and leading up to the race are going to be different. But you came from a point of you had a not great race. You tried to get a confidence builder race in. It was still difficult, but you did win. And then you were going to another race and leading into that race. I recently talked to an athlete who she's been very ill and she wasn't able to train for like 2 weeks or had very limited training. Heart rate elevated afterwards, everything. And she was talking about pulling out of her next race because her last race was super good. She hit a PR and didn't want to lose confidence by having a bad race next. My advice to her was go run the race, like run your next race because like right now, one day you're gonna have a bad race, right?
I was
Uh,
literally about to say that.
yeah, one day you're gonna have a bad race. You're not always just gonna PR. Like there's no reason to think like having a good race or a bad race is gonna shake your confidence. Go get the experience of the race no matter what, even though you were ill. If it doesn't go the way you want it to, or it's not as great as you think it could be, you still finish the race and you have one that was a little setback, be like, well, I can obviously point to this time, which is why this might not have gone so great, you know? Uh, but if you skip this one, you get a really good training block and you go have a bad race, you're gonna be a lot more devastated by that than this
Yeah.
one. Like, go get your race in, get the experience. You hadn't told me all this, but if you had told me you were really considering it that much and this was affecting you, I probably would have just said, go get the experience no matter what. I know it's a long travel. You don't have to travel again for a long time, but go at least like these Elite 15 race experiences are so valuable.
The,
Just towing the start line there, whether it's good or
Okay.
bad, how you end up feeling the race is so important to progressing forward. And that goes for even pro level races, open level races, no matter
Yeah.
where anybody is and wants to
I
proceed.
think it
But
was tough for me as well because I didn't just want the experience. I wanted a ticket to Stockholm. And I
yes,
think I knew that my shape was there because I'd proven it multiple times before in multiple sessions, and I was feeling really good. Like as we said in the weeks leading up to it, I had some really good threshold running sessions, and I quite like those as indicators of like where I am in general. And there's various sessions that we have that I like to see as indicators and kind of see the progress. And I knew the shape was there, and I think that was it. I was almost fearing not executing and not showing off what I'd worked for again, like what happened in Hamburg and then also in Paris, which like neither of which were really in my control. And I just wanted this one to be it so badly that I was almost scared myself out of it and took the
I
control
mean, yeah,
right.
away.
in
So
the league.
you went into Melbourne and calm on that start line, focused. Uh, and you went out, you executed a fantastic race and ended up with a PR just, was it 1 second over 60 minutes?
2 seconds.
With a break
Oh,
at like
I know,
with
don't.
the wall
Uh,
ball break with like 5 wall balls left or something.
No,
and
no, I had 30 to go.
30 to go?
Yeah.
and it was on the like the new grid, which
You have 120 turns. So
Yeah.
all I'm saying is that if you lose 1 second per turn, which is feasible given the acceleration, that's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Me
Well,
and 58.
I mean, I don't know if it's a full second per turn, but yeah.
probably
Okay, maybe
Cool.
I'm
Two
cutting this
minutes.
short, but like
Awesome.
I'd be sub 60. Come on.
towards
Yeah.
the end.
So
Um,
I mean, you did fantastic. Hit a big PR, almost became the fifth woman under
oh, I
60,
know.
and now you'll have more opportunities this year. Um, Before we go on to past and present, let's first talk about that wasn't the only race you did that weekend. You had a great first race. You had a fantastic weekend overall. You ended up on the podium in two races, two elite majors. So the first one, great job in your uh, first like healthy major this year. You get a qualifying spot, basically become the fourth woman qualified um, by taking the first qualifying spot in the second major. And then you go to the doubles with your partner Sinead. and you guys race an awesome race, and you literally only got beat by a world record.
Yeah.
I I wanna point out like so after the singles, I was like after Lucy had gotten out of drug testing and everything, I was FaceTiming her and she was back in the Elite 15 athlete lounge as the men were like kind of leaving to go do their walkout. And um, Charlie Bottrill, who is Lucy's mixed doubles partner and also a very good friend, he like Lucy gave him a headphone, like we kind of
Basically,
chatted pre-race.
basically saw Charlie looking quite nervous. Like he
Yeah.
was about to walk out, and obviously I know how it feels for it to be your debut, and I wanted desperately for him to do well. He's one of my best friends, and like, of course, I knew that he would go out there and give it everything, but I just like wanted
But
to talk to him, and also Tom was on the phone, so I was like, look, if anyone's gonna say something useful, it's gonna be you.
yeah, so we chatted a bit and then he just said, right, I've just got to go do a Lucy Procter now. And then he came third. And then in the doubles, he came second. So he literally copied Lucy the whole weekend.
Just yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours behind you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's actually really funny. And his
Yeah.
debut. I remember I messaged Tom after watching the men's race because
Mhm.
I didn't know it, but like I don't think I've ever spoken to Charlie. And I watched him cross that finish line. And I started to feel emotional, like, oh my God, he's so
Yeah.
good for him. Like,
Like
and even Lauren texts me and she's like, I don't know why I'm tearing up.
Yeah, I think we all
So excited
cried.
for him. Like
Literally all
everybody
cried.
was.
I put a video of like the live stream of him crossing the finish line, but that was actually the second time I'd watched it. Like you can hear me kind of almost sobbing in the background. But the first time I did actually break down in tears and then went back to like re-record it. Just yeah, just
Tom was very tearful at about 6 a.m. that
I
day.
I was, yes.
You had to wake up early to watch that one.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. So you went on from there, and then yeah, you ended up second place in the doubles race. How do you feel, or do you feel any differently when you're racing a doubles versus when you're racing your solo?
Yeah, it was a weird one. I think obviously this is actually only like our third race together ever. And first one since Chicago, which is obviously now half a year ago. But both, I mean, Sinead's nursed an injury through that time, and both of us have kind of not changed dramatically, but as a pair, our strengths and weaknesses against each other have shifted. So I think having not trained together either since Chicago, we were kind of like a little bit rusty, I guess, as a team, and we weren't entirely sure what the best way to go about breaking things up would be. So we changed a few things from Chicago, but at the same time, I don't think we considered our current condition, shape, and strengths as well as we potentially could have. Like there are some things that we always do because we know it works really well and potentially makes a move on stations. There were other stations where, like for example, in the farmer's carry, I thought it would be quicker to break twice and get her to run the last bit because she's great at that. It was not quicker. That was not a good decision. We just literally lost. Like we basically had a really tiny gap to Joe and Jess at that point, and we just lost it, and that's where we lost them for the rest of the race, and that was like my call. So yeah, that was not a good thing to do. Won't be doing that again. Um, and yeah, there's some things like wobbles, for example, where maybe one partner's got a slightly faster cycle rate, but then it's difficult to know how you break it. Everyone's really going to go unbroken, and to be honest, most people will probably just swap once. And so like there are some stations like that with doubles where it's kind of not worth really thinking too much about the tactics. There are others where we really probably should have thought more about maybe who started, who finished, and how we broke it up. So I guess those are things to think about for the next time we race together. And potentially maybe do some sims together before that so that we can really like hone in on how those breaks and transitions would work. I think in terms of like how I actually feel during the race, I feel like I really think doubles is tougher than solos at this level. You're really putting out a max effort. And the thing is, the way I like to see doubles is that you basically put out a max effort and then recover in about 10 seconds, about 20 times over. And it's obviously it's really, really tough. You overall have a lower heart rate, but it's just spike and then try to recover and then spike. And then of course you're pushing the runs harder. And yeah, it can things can shift quickly, but at the same time, I think a lot of the time, especially in the women's, we see people take an early lead and just hold on to it. So you really have to trust yourself to go out hot. And I think we were talking after, and you said that that first run in the doubles actually wasn't any quicker than the first race in the solos, which is crazy to me because it felt so much faster. And I think it's just because that course is so narrow and having 30 people start at once, it just felt so scrappy and so risky to go with the front because everyone was just like elbows out.
Yeah, you had to like run
Um,
around and weave.
yeah, exactly. And maybe you're taking the longer line, so you're actually running further, and therefore it feels faster, and it technically is because it's longer. But yeah, it really like I felt much less in control and much less like, oh, I'm not sure, maybe I'm going too hard too soon. But I think that's the other thing as well. Like I said, you're putting out like what feels like a max effort and then recovering kind of over and over again for the whole duration of the race. I think the one reflection I had on myself after the race was that I should have trusted myself to go harder because my like overall fitness level, and I think especially from like the way that we do thresholds and have done since we started working together, and yeah, it's definitely changed my fitness and how I can recover, and I can recover quicker from a higher heart rate. Obviously that's an overall fitness increase, but just having like shorter rest basically. I used to have probably like 25 to 50% more rest than I do now between threshold efforts. And so in the doubles, it really means that I can bring my heart rate down and recover quicker. And so I should trust myself to go harder when I am like the partner that's working. Um, so yeah, I think that was it. I felt like I kind of had more to give, or I should have felt worse at the end of the race than I did because in Chicago, I really gave everything in our doubles, like really, really, really gave everything. And I didn't like quite like, even though like I'm not saying I sandbagged it because that's definitely not the case, but having crossed the line, when I look back at the start of the race, for example, potentially I could have pushed harder then, which might have stood us in better stead to like have a better battle with Jess and Joe. So I think that's just something to bear in mind. How hard can you actually afford to push, especially when you've done the solo race the day before and you're used to this steady, continuous effort and basically not pushing yourself into the red till like, I guess, the lunges. You can really afford to do that much earlier in the doubles because you will get the chances to recover. And I think it's that shift where I have to say to myself, you're now in doubles mode, not solos, and it's a different feeling. And you have to be prepared to hurt more for shorter times, knowing you're going to recover and trusting that you will.
Yeah.
So,
So you said a few interesting things there. So yeah, just real quick, the first run in the women's solo elite, Lauren ran it in 3:53. And the next day, the fastest team, I think Lauren got to the skier. They were 4 minutes, so 7 seconds slower in the doubles race. Um, and I was just looking at some others, like other runs people were doing was like 4:04, 4:07. So it wasn't any faster in the doubles than that solo first run was. But additionally, you said something really important there is that you and Sinead haven't raced together in 6 months. You haven't worked out together. And you guys went in just doing, oh, let's have the same plan or similar plan as we did last time, not accounting for your current fitness and where you are at this time. And I think that's really important is like, even if you race with the same partner, you should always analyze where are we at right now and what would be the best strategy from here instead of like, oh, this worked last time, let's do this again. Yeah, so I
yeah.
think that was really important information. But yeah, you were really close on uh, the race, and it does sound like just a couple. If you guys hadn't switched on the farmer carry, if like maybe Sinead instead had carried it a little bit further to begin with, and then you grabbed it and got there, kept that gap close or closed, what would have happened on the run, lunge, run, wall ball? We don't know, but still fantastic racing. Got yourself two podiums on the weekend, and we're going to look forward to the upcoming races. So we'll do upcoming before we go quickly back to your past. We've been almost going an hour now. So upcoming, if you want to say or not, invites for Arizona, Phoenix just went out. Are you going to be there?
No.
So
No, I'm
good thing about this, we had this talk. If Lucy, and she's not going to, is not going to go to Phoenix, she doesn't have to travel really outside of Europe or short flights around Europe for basically until the next major, next whatever October. So you get to be relatively close to home or short flights from home for the next 10 months, which is an absolute luxury. And so we've changed up training a little bit to reflect that in the coming weeks and months and targeted some other dates leading into that.
Yeah, I think like we said, I've literally handed myself a kind of mini off season on a silver platter, which is exactly what I said in June, July was the intention when I said that I was not going to take an off season after Chicago. Like I said to myself, you're taking a huge risk here because I know for me personally and for lots of people, but for me personally is the point, I cannot go 12 months continuously. Like I can't do it. It's not healthy, it's not feasible, and I can't sustain peaks when I need to, like in Melbourne, without having some kind of break, mental and physical. And I said to myself, if I didn't take an off season, despite being very heavily urged to after Chicago, that I need, like, it was a huge gamble because I really, really needed to qualify in either Hamburg or Melbourne to allow myself to take a break before June. And if that didn't happen, I was going to end up in a position where I did not get an off season for a very, very, very long time. And it's really, really easy to forget that when you then qualify, have an amazing race. You're like, great, on to the next one. But I think I got home from Melbourne and I was still thinking, like, I want to race Phoenix now. Let's build on that. Let's go and, like, maybe try and stand on the podium again. Let's see if I can break 60. And I got maybe a week or two kind of after the race and I was recovering. And then we had the Christmas period. And I thought, you know what? All I'm doing over this Christmas period is thinking about my next race. And it's crazy because I have not been able to enjoy a Christmas for like maybe 2 or 3 years because I've always been preparing for a race. And I said to myself, like, what are you doing? You promised yourself that you would take a break if you qualified in Hamburg or Melbourne. You should be celebrating and you should be able to enjoy Christmas and enjoy the time with like your family and loved ones around you and not be worried about cranking like 20 plus hour training weeks because you have a race in a month's time. Like, what exactly is the reason for me going to Phoenix beyond FOMO? And I realized there really isn't one because it's a waste of energy. And I'm not going for a qualifying spot. I've already got one of those. So it's just going to be a better option for me to actually allow myself the rest, play the long game, which is something that I'm continuously reminding myself to do. Um, given that I intend to be in this sport for decades, hopefully. Um, and like eyes on Stockholm, really. I think I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to Rock's Life and it was with Till. And I remember him saying, really, the goal of elites in high rocks at the moment is to qualify for world champs and execute a good race there. And I was like, yeah, he's so right. Part one done. Part two, Stockholm. So, obviously, that's not to say that I won't be racing again. As we know, I will be. But traveling all the way to Phoenix and dealing with the time difference and the stress of a race and the recovery just wasn't worth it in my mind. So yeah, that's where that decision came from.
And um, it's not like you're not going to race, like you just said. You do have stop points and touch points we're going to hit that are pro races and elite races for the coming years. And you're doing it also because frankly, we know that the point system is coming. They've announced that it's going to be here, and the details of it will come out, I believe, next week. So the point system, you're going to have to race. So we're going to get some races in still, just to make sure that you are qualifying yourself for the next season. But it's not really the build that you're looking for until Worlds, because that's where you want to be your best at. And so you're taking your approach of, hey, let's get everything in line and settled and normal and build from there. So skipping Phoenix is the right call and the good idea. And there's still two other elite races you could participate in. Whether you go to both of them or not yet, we don't know. But you also have some pro races you can do. And then it's world champs time.
Exactly.
I think it's also a fairly well-known principle in professional cycling, like kind of racing yourself fit, where you're doing smaller races, in this case, pro races, to kind of get fitter and like get fitter in a race environment
Hmm.
for the elite races.
Yeah. And that's exactly. So she's absolutely touching. And I do like racing. I like lots of touch points, and that doesn't have to be, hey, let's experience the travel and the cost and everything associated with it to get that experience because you live in a place where you can go get those and you have that ability. So that's the future. Let's rewind it here and go back. I've asked before, like, so usually with an endurance sport, well, what have you been doing the last 10 years? But 10 years ago, you were 11 years old. So let's talk
12
about
actually.
what's that?
I said 12 actually.
12 years old. So let's talk about, and your birthday, it was a birthday present to you, by the way, Melbourne. So that was a month
And
ago.
delivered my own birthday present.
Yeah, perfect. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about what you've been doing basically leading up to when you first started High Rocks. And then also, since Tom's on here, I want to know how you guys met.
All right, the two can be interlinked, kind of. So yeah, I guess like the first thing to say is I was always a sporty-ish kid. Like I would always do sports. Like my parents made me swim when I was like a few months old, and I that was my first ever like competitive sport. But I did quit when I was, I guess, 9 or 10. But I did do swing galas. It's the first experience I had of doing a competition in sport. I have skied since I was 3 years old. Not as much as I would like to. Obviously, I don't live in a country that allows that, so it's always a holiday. But most years I've spent a week or two skiing, so I'm really fortunate for that. And I do actually attribute that to some of my high rocks ability because doing like a week or two of like 6 or 7 hours of skiing back to back, especially when you're like young and developing, that must count for some like muscular endurance, surely. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, I always did sports like at school, so I'd always be in a team for whatever sports were on offer. I'm fortunate enough to have always been to a school where you were forced to do a sport, like it or not. And I did go through periods where I did everything in my power to not go and do a sport. I would always have some kind of excuse or injury or whatever. Probably, I think it was around maybe 13 or 14 that I started to really loathe PE and like sport in general. And I just went through a phase for a few years, probably actually early in 13 or 14, maybe even like probably quite soon after I quit swimming, 10, 11, 12, where I just did not want to do anything, especially if it involved running. So I would pick the position on whatever team I was in, whether it was hockey or whatever, that required the least running. So I basically play goalkeeper or in defense, and not have to run around the pitch. And yeah, it wasn't until I was about 15 or 16 that I basically did not want to play netball anymore, which was the main sport that was on offer. For people that don't know what netball is, it's essentially basketball, but you can't move with the ball, and it's a generally girls sport. Um, yeah, for like, I guess most schools in the UK, if they offer a sport, chances are for like a third of the year, one term, or I guess semester as you call it, uh, you do netball. So the alternative to that at the time was cross country. And there would like that was kind of there was always the main sport, and then there'd be a few other sports that you could choose instead. So it might be like cross country or like maybe swimming.
So, wait, you went from a sport where you wanted to choose the position that ran the least, whether that be
Yeah,
goalie or anything,
exactly. Yeah.
to just a pure running sport.
I just couldn't be bothered to play netball anymore. I just did like I didn't want to do you'd have to go to play a match like 1 or 2 times a week, and it would always involve like a really long mini bus journey, and it was just cold and you were outside. Like I know you're running outside, but I was sick of being cold and stood still. And I know it sounds like I'm just going from one thing that I hate to another, which to be honest, at the time I was. But someone had told me that like if you went to cross country, you could just turn up and basically run like 1 mile and then go back. And I was like, great, how hard can it be? I get more free time. I just have to run a mile. Cool, job done. And I still remember my first session at cross country really vividly. It was not 1 mile. I think it was about six. Um, and I remember getting 1 mile in and nearly throwing up and being so incredibly out of breath. I probably ran this first mile in maybe like 9 or 10 minutes, right, so I'm going slow. Um, and I have just nearly thrown up. Like I've just busted a gut to get to get as far as because I had no concept of pacing, and I honestly was so out of breath. But something in me that day was like, I'm not being bad at this. This is ridiculous. Like I had pretty much, you also had to do a cross country race at the school each year. It was basically like inter-house cross country. So between all of the houses, you would just race, basically. And I nearly came dead last in my first year. And I was like, do you know what? I'm not taking this embarrassment for another 4 years. So I'm gonna get good at this. And I did, and I just chipped away and I really fell in love with it. And um we had COVID as well, and one of the only things that you could do for physical activity was running. And I went through quite a tough time mentally at the time, and I went through a breakup, and like it became my outlet and something that I really, really loved doing. And to the point where I got back to school after COVID, and the guy that was in charge of cross country at school, one of my favorite teachers, honestly, I wouldn't be where I am without him. Um, he said like you should join my club, like running club or the club that he went to. And he and or his wife would literally, because teachers at school weren't allowed to. I went to boarding school for reference. That's why there's all these weird things. But teachers weren't allowed to take students in their car to places, obviously for safeguarding reasons. So the school solution to that was that they had cars that teachers could take out to take pupils in the school car, basically. And in his free time or his wife's free time between the two of them, pretty much every Tuesday and Thursday, without fail, for 2 years, would take me to the track to go to my running sessions in this school car, drive me there, drive me back, and then go home for the evening. They went so out of their way for me so that I could go to that track club. And I was able to train and compete and be with like-minded people that were doing the same thing and do like sport externally. So I went from literally trying to get out of sport to doing as much sport outside of school as possible. And I would get up and run early before like lessons started. And on the weekends, I would literally fight the woman in charge of my house to let me go out and run for like an hour outside of school. And they told me I had to stay in like a certain radius of the school, and I would go way out of that and be literally just off the grid, like I don't know, 6 miles away. And yeah, I just loved it, and I really, really fell in love with it, and I carried on after I left school. And then slowly also fell into the gym, and pretty much one day someone asked me if I knew what a Hyrox was because they knew I was a good runner and that I was like relatively strong. And that's it, and that's how I found out about it. So yeah, and then from there it's kind of just been a steady shift from just a runner who maybe does the odd bit of lifting because she thinks it might help her and aesthetically wanted to look a bit better as well, to fully just going all in on this Hyrox thing.
It's awesome. And now you're one of the UK Red Bull sponsored athletes, like creating a living and a life around this sport that we all do and has grown. You talked about 2019 or 2020, and I just can't imagine when we went to our first race back in October of 2019, imagining where this sport is now was not a concept.
Yeah.
Imagining that we've built this business and like that our livelihood is intertwined with hybrid sports and fitness, and then fitness racing and High Rocks itself is just astounding. And I can't believe it when I look back on it. So one thing you missed there is how did you and Tom meet?
Oh, yeah.
I'll take this.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to like point out
I just want
I
to say, Tom, no matter what you say, the interpretation of how Lauren and I met has people said that I stalked her, and I didn't stalk her, but I persisted at a
okay.
time. And you know what? In order to ask her out, I had to beat her in a workout using the same weight. So that was very difficult. I had to prove my worth before I ever quit.
I
Savage, I love
I just
it.
I just yeah. I first actually heard about High Rocks in like 2022, I think, because some people from my gym at the time were training for probably High Rocks London. And at the time I was like, I'm never gonna do that. because that mostly because I thought the burpee broad jumps looked ridiculous. And there's still a video somewhere buried deep in my phone of me, I think, snatching, and then in the background you can just see some guy burpee broad jump into frame and then burpee broad jump out of frame. That looks ridiculous. Um, but yeah, so I went through I had a bit of a crisis leaving university. I'd worked for a couple of years and then I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So I quit my job as an engineer, moved to Lanzarote in Club La Santa, got a job there, and became a CrossFit
I just want
instructor.
to say, who hasn't done that, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Like it's a fairly common
yeah,
crisis to have, right?
yeah.
And
Quit your job as an engineer, lose like miss your experience things sometimes, and yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. So I worked there for a year and it was kind of around I think April, so CrossFit quarterfinal season.
Yep.
And there was a group of us that were all kind of doing CrossFit there. Um, was No, Lucy Campbell had left at that
No.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I so
she'd been there for the Open, but she wasn't there for
I had gone
fun.
out to Club of Santa on a training
Can
camp.
I finish?
Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry.
So yeah, we were all doing the CrossFit quarterfinals, and the I think it was quarterfinal two, the one that was 3 rounds for time, 50 wall balls, 50 burpee box jump overs. Um, Sammy, friend of mine, who was also the guy that hired me, he was making a real run for kind of the top of the quarterfinal standings, but really didn't want to do this one. So we all kind of pitched in and we all were doing it so that at least you'd have people to chase. And oh, oh for fuck's sake. I'll just continue anyway, just in case. It might still be recording. And
Yeah,
Okay.
it
there we
might still be recording. All right, so last thing I heard was yeah, it says mine's unstable. So I don't know if it recorded it. If not, I'll just listen back and cut
go.
that
Okay.
part out. I don't know where you got cut off at though.
No, neither.
No.
I'm not sure.
What's the
You
last
were
thing
in
you remember?
Lanzarote and Lucy Campbell was still at the gym
No, she
No,
and
she
wasn't.
no,
So
I was trying to remember if she'd been there for quarterfinals because she'd come
yeah,
out like for the last week of the Open. I remember that. And then yeah. But so it was yeah, for quarterfinals it was workout two, I think. It was the one that was 50 wall balls, 50 burpee box jump overs, 3 rounds for time.
yep.
And kind of
Did you finish that workout?
no, I didn't. I couldn't be bothered. I wasn't entered in quarterfinals that year, so I just couldn't be bothered.
Oh,
Um, but so my friend Sammy, who is also the guy that hired me at Club Santa, he was making a real kind of run for the top levels of the quarterfinal rankings. But he also really didn't want to do this. So we all kind of got together and we all did the workout. And like some of us did it before him, some of us did it at the same time as him, kind of just to give him people to chase. So um, one of them was my friend Laura, who is a very is da like she's Danish. She's also a very good high roxer. She was the person that was kind of organizing all of high rocks at Club La Santa at the time. And then Lucy just happened to be kind of sitting on a bike in the corner of the CrossFit area.
for
And
reference, I had gone to the CrossFit area in a right strop because I'd gone to Club of Santa on my own. I had also just quit my job to pursue the athlete dream. And I went out to Club of Santa to do a training camp on my own. I was like, right, I'm really going all in. I'm going to send it and I'm going to try and win the under 24 world title. This is in the Bill to Nice. And I had gone out for like, I think it was my third or fourth session of the day to try and do an easy run. And I just felt so smoked. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm overtraining. So I got in a right strop to the CrossFit box to sit on a bike instead. And all these guys were there.
yeah,
So I'm sat like angry on
and
this
so
bike.
Sammy looks over and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this with us?" And Lucy, I think, was like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm okay." And then Sammy's got this way where he kind of forcibly makes friends with people.
He
So
knew I was a high rocks athlete. I mean,
he
it was obvious I was
oh
a full
she
Puma.
well, I
Like,
think it was more the built for athletes that was covered in Hyrox
oh
patches.
God.
Um, but yeah, so he kind of roped her into doing this workout. Like there was space, and then afterwards, like it's very social being employed there. Everyone kind of just goes to dinner with everyone all the time. So you just go eat in one of the restaurants. It's really nice and cozy. But yeah, so he invited her to dinner then, and then we kind of started chatting. And then a few days later, Sammy was actually leaving, so he invited her to his leaving dinner. And then yeah, we basically just chatted, and it kind of just went from there.
Nice. So you met at a gym. That's always the best.
Yeah, pretty
Exactly.
much.
So, all right. Um, well, we've been talking pretty long here. It might be one of our longest episodes that I've ever had. Just to kind of wrap it up, is Tom, what are your goals?
Um, I'm entered in to do mixed doubles in Warsaw. That's probably my next goal, but I had a pretty long competitive CrossFit season last year, so I'm kind of enjoying doing some semi-unstructured training at the moment. I'm still doing high-level CrossFit workouts. I'm doing a lot more running now, but I'm just enjoying like if I don't want to train that day, then I won't train. Or if I kind of just want to do something easy, then I'll do something easy or whatever. I'm just enjoying having some time to do some really un semi-unstructured stuff.
Nice. Nice. Well, one day, Tom, if we're ever on the same continent, right,
Yes.
we'll get
Yeah.
that pro
Yeah. Yeah.
doubles time in.
Uh,
We just
the
have to go faster than Lucy or Lauren can go by themselves.
Yeah.
Uh,
The other goal is I want to do German throwdown pairs. That I'm trying to convince a guy at my gym to do German throwdown elite pairs. So that'll be fun.
okay. All right. All right. And then Lucy, what are your goals this season?
Oh, that's really tough because I haven't really thought too much about them because I think I was so focused on Melbourne. I would love to stand on another podium, like an elite podium. Um, and I think I would love to take top five at Worlds again. I think that's a big one. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously break 60, like it's an obvious next goal. I'm 3 seconds off.
I think
Um,
moving up 2 spots at Worlds would be really, really beneficial, at least, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
instead of just top
and
five, the
yeah.
podium.
I agree. I think I tend to like shy away from setting myself really, really big, scary goals, but top five in Chicago was the really big, scary goal, and I did it.
Shoot
So
for the stars, land on the moon.
yeah, I know. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it'll be more specific goal setting the closer we get. I tend to kind of set my goals a little bit last minute. But yeah, then I think another big one that I'm obviously already thinking about with the announcements of the point system for next season is to like be qualified by like the time Worlds comes around, basically. So I have nothing to do really. Uh
Yeah. Take
or
pressure off yourself.
be pretty much certain that I'm going to qualify for the first major of next season by Stockholm so that I can
Yeah.
have a block over the summer.
Yeah. It's perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for coming on. Lucy, if you have any sponsors you want to shout out or tell people where they can find you.
I will shout out all my sponsors. Obviously for the energy, Red Bull.
I
Yeah,
drink a lot of those at these races.
so does he. I think genuinely the two of you drink more than I do. So I mean that says a lot, of course. Like,
By the
and
way, just real fast, when I was in London for the coaches clinic this last summer, they have some unique flavors over there that
in
I
the
don't get over
UK?
here. Yeah. And you have those like that aren't energy drinks, special sparkling water
No, no,
thing.
no, no,
No,
no, no,
that
no, no. Those are in
we don't have
Austria. We
that.
don't have those.
Those are an Austria thing only,
Those are an
unfortunately.
Austria thing, but they just happen to have them at this specific thing. I think it was because you were at the factory in Milton Keynes,
Oh,
but
I
they
can't
don't
stop
actually
thinking
sell those
about
in
them.
the UK.
They're so
They're
good.
they're amazing. Next
I,
time, I'm actually there. I mean, it's a shame I won't really see you until uh Stockholm, but maybe I'll have to stockpile a couple when I go out to Salzburg and keep them for you.
Well, I'll be in London the second weekend after the
That's
regional.
true. Maybe I
Uh,
can get you some from Salzburg. I'm going
and
there.
I might be in Warsaw.
Okay.
So,
Well, maybe I can get you some. But yeah, those are good. So yeah, Red Bull for the energy, and if you're Austrian, then drink the organics because everyone else misses out. Um, for all the protein and supplements and the best vitamins. And yeah, basically everything I take that keeps me as healthy as I possibly can, especially through the flu season, ESN. Um, Also, the protein bars are top tier. My clothes, all of my race outfits are Gymshark. And the honestly best shoe ever has, well, it's about to drop. But the new Puma High Rock shoes, when they do drop in February, honestly, I'm in shock at how good they are. Like, I think I'll find it really hard to race in anything else ever again because these shoes are incredible. And I think we're definitely at least in part responsible for my result in Melbourne because they are sick. And I mean, look at the color. It's pink. What's not to like? So yeah, when they drop, be quick.
Cool. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Lucy, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. If you'd like to reach out to us about coaching or programming, you can find us on Fitter, either James Kelly, Hybrid Coaching, or the Hybrid Engine. You can also find us on Instagram at jk.jameskelly or at the Hybrid Engine. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can also message us on either of those platforms or send us an email at thehybridcoachingpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's hybridcoachingpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.